On that Tuesday in Fars province, it was the morning after second anniversary of Naveed Afkari's death. He was an athlete, wrestler, who was arrested in the aftermath of 2018 protests. He was tortured into confessing to murder of a security guard and sentenced to death without evidence and without a fair trial. The execution sparked international outrage and was denounced by several states, as well as international human rights organizations. Naveed's family has been under immense pressure ever since. One of his brothers is serving a 33-year sentence and is kept in solitary confinement, while the rest of his family have been each arrested multiple times. On September 13th, Naveed's family was going to Sangar Cemetery to attend his memorial when his sister Elham Afkari, one of his brothers, Habib, and Habib's wife were all arrested. The government was trying to stop the memorial and prevent any gatherings on his grave by a tombstone that has been destroyed several times by the Islamic Republic's forces. More than 800 kilometers away on that same day, Mahsa Amini, or as known by her beautiful Kurdish name Jina, was arrested for improper hijab in Tehran. The Islamic Republic made hijab obligatory and established a dress code in 1983. Resistance to the mandatory hijab was almost immediate and has been an ongoing effort ever since. In 1994, Dr. Homad Arabi stood in one of Tehran's main squares, took off her headscarf, shouted, "Long live Iran, long live freedom, death to the dictator," and set herself on fire. In 2017, Vida Mowahed took off her white headscarf, tied it to a stick, and stood on top of a utility box in one of Tehran's main streets. She was arrested later, but her act of protest started a campaign called the Girls of the Revolution Street, and led to other campaigns like the White Wednesdays and My Stealthy Freedom, founded by Masih Ali-Nejad. In July 2022, Sepide Rashno resisted harassment by a hijab enforcer on a bus. The video of the incident was sent to authorities by the other woman, and Sepide was arrested shortly after. She was tortured in jail, taken to a hospital with internal bleeding, and later was forced into confession on state TV with signs of injuries on her face. Despite all efforts, the mandatory hijab and the dress code have been enforced throughout the past 4 decades via different mechanisms, including the so-called morality police. On that Tuesday, Mahsa Amini was traveling with her brother when she was arrested in Tehran. This is how she was dressed on the day of her arrest. This is in fact way more conservative than the average attire we were used to see on Tehran's streets, which shows the random and subjective nature of morality police's operations. Although the Islamic Republic denies it, but based on statements and leaked medical records, Mahsa was beaten prior to being taken to the morality police station. In this video, you can see her talking to an officer, probably trying to convince them that her clothes were proper. She then collapses on the ground and was later taken to a hospital while already fallen into a coma. Mahsa remains comatose on Wednesday, and the news of what happened to her started to get out. More people are learning and talking about Mahsa at this point, including non-Iranian activists. Concerned citizens are gathering in front of Kasra Hospital, where Mahsa was hospitalized, and resisted the security forces who were trying to disperse them. A photo showing Mahsa's parents in the hospital hall was posted online and received a lot of attention. This photo was in fact taken by a journalist, Nilufar Hamedi. Nilufar and another journalist, Elahe Mohammadi, who later posted a video of Mahsa's burial, were later arrested and are currently in prison being tried for propaganda against the regime and conspiracy to act against national security. Mahsa is announced dead and her family is shaken by the news. The Islamic Republic insists that her death was due to previous conditions and a heart attack, which her family strongly refutes, while her doctors are threatened not to publicize any information. Outside the hospital, the crowd is getting larger and being attacked by security forces. The conversation is also getting traction on social media. Here are some of the celebrities who reacted to Mahsa's death on that Friday. Government rushes to restrict internet access and NetBlocks reports a 67% reduction in connectivity in Iran. Roads leading to Kasra Hospital are blocked and people are gathering in other parts of the city chanting "Death to the dictator" and calling the supreme leader Khamenei a murderer. Protesters are being attacked not only by security forces but also by plainclothesmen. One thing to know about the oppression forces of the Islamic Republic is that there are several groups involved. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, is a branch of the Iranian armed forces, which operates separate from the army. Basij, that is one of the 5 forces of IRGC, is a volunteer-based paramilitary organization. There are also the plainclothesmen, an informal group of social and political enforcers closely affiliated with the office of the Supreme Leader and the IRGC. Many of them are in fact members of Basij too. They mainly use motorcycles to get around fast. All of these forces are armed and have been involved in attacking, kidnapping, and killing protesters in Iran in conjunction with the police special units and security forces. While protesters are being attacked and arrested on the streets of Tehran, Mahsa's body is transferred to her hometown Saqqez in Kurdistan province. The regime was planning to bury her overnight to avoid large crowds at the burial, but people have already gathered at the cemetery and managed to stop the untimely burial. Thousands of people arrive at cemetery in the morning to pay their respect at Mahsa's burial. On her temporary tombstone it's written, "Dear Gina, you won't die. Your name will become a code name." And it did indeed. The Persian hashtag Mahsa Amini has been posted and retweeted over 2 million times by that Friday, and by the beginning of October that number will exceed 200 million. Women took off their headscarves and the crowd chanted "Jen, Jian, Azadi" in Kurdish, which translates to "Zan, Zendegi, Azadi" in Persian, or "Woman, Life, Freedom," what has become the rallying cry of this revolution. The other chants directly targeted Khamenei, calling him an incompetent leader and a dictator. One thing people were very clear about since day one was that they were sick of the Islamic Republic. Their issue was not only with hijab and the morality police, but the entire regime. The protesting crowd then left the cemetery and moved into the city, where they were met with water cannons, tear gas, and shotguns. There are also protests in Sanandaj, the capital of Kurdistan province, that same day. Mahsa's medical records were hacked and published. What is believed to be her skull CT scan shows bone fracture and hemorrhage, and her chest images show symptoms compatible with acute respiratory distress syndrome due to brain trauma. In another effort to stop the flow of information, some Iranian phone carriers start filtering Mahsa Amini's name. In spite of all that, protests continue in other cities, including Karaj and Sanandaj, and women keep removing their headscarves. Shopkeepers have also started strikes in Kurdistan. In a rare act, Iranian actress Katayun Riahi posts a picture of herself without hijab on Instagram and interviewed with an international broadcasting agency, saying she has never worn the headscarf voluntarily and that it was time to end the lies. She was arrested later. More celebrities are reacting to the recent events and the government starts a pressure campaign. In the coming days, more and more athletes, artists, and their families are threatened by the regime, served, interrogated, and jailed. On a different front, it is the first week of fall semester, and university students are coming back on campuses. Students gather and march in Tehran University while chanting Jen, Jian, Azadi. Student protests and clashes with Basij members continue in Tehran University and spread to other campuses including Sharif, Amir Kabir, Shahid Beheshti, and Allame Tabatabai universities. Rallies and strikes continue in cities in and around Kurdistan, while other big cities in different parts of the country, such as Tehran, Karaj, Rasht, Mashhad, and Isfahan, are rising up. Women are not only removing their headscarves, but are burning them in rallies now. Protesters are being shot at, and all they have to defend themselves are rocks and stones. The firearms used by the oppression forces at this point are not only pellet guns anymore, and target anyone and anything. A passing car is set on fire by tear gas shot into the car, and a 10-year-old girl is shot in the head in Bukhan. One casualty that I know of so far is Faridun Mahmoudi, father of two, who was shot dead in Saqqez on that Monday. Protesters also react to the regime's violence by attacking police cars and Basij's motorcycles. On this day, Iran's president, Ebrahim Raisi, enters New York City to attend the UN General Assembly session, despite all the efforts by Iranian diaspora requesting that the US government denies his visa application. Hundreds of Iranians gather in different cities in the United States and Canada to stand in solidarity with Iranians inside the country. Celebrated Iranian musician Shahram Nazari posts a song for Mahsa.
دیچی کوسم کفت چی زنگم زریا دیچی کوسم کفت چی زنگم زریا دسم لداوا دوسگم بریا دسم لداوا دوسگم بریا.
By September 20th, protests have spread to more universities and students are being arrested in various cities. The number of cities that are scenes of unrest has tripled and oppression forces are at work everywhere.
رو کثافت نگاه داره اونو میفرسته جلو. بریز این یارو آشغال، کثافت آشغال. وای این آشغال رو نگاه کن. بریز جلو.
Cutting hair and burning headscarves are common acts of protest at this point. Banners, posters, and flags associated with the government in any way are burned or taken down too, and new handmade banners with symbols of the revolution are installed. Gist of the chants on the streets is this: "We don't want the Islamic Republic." Another actress comes out with a photo without hijab, and a few hacktivist groups, including Anonymous, have come to stand with protesters by hacking websites associated with the government and regime supporters. The Islamic Republic does everything to stop the flow of information, as it doesn't want the world to see its brutality against protesters. The internet is fully shut down in some cities and is very limited in others. Security forces go as far as shooting at whoever they see filming, like the passengers in this bus. This is a trend which you will see more evidence of in the coming days. Images like these are what they don't want the world to see. Security forces beat everyone, whether part of the protest or not. Even the plainclothes men are sometimes targeted, as they are not recognizable to the security forces at first glance. In fact, a lot of things are not what they seem to be. For example, ambulances are not used to take wounded to hospitals, but to move oppression forces or arrested protesters from and to police stations. Here you can see a crowd helping a protester escape from an ambulance. People defend themselves whenever they can, and police cars, motorcycles, and trailers are burnt. Several people are killed on September 20th, including Farjad Darvishi, Reza Shahbarnia, Minu Majidi, 16-year-old Zakaria Khial, and 16-year-old Nika Shakarami. When security forces delivered Nika's body to her family days later, her nose was fully smashed and her skull was broken with multiple blows. The Islamic Republic first claimed that Nika's death had no connection to the protests and she was thrown from a roof. They later changed the story to that it was a suicide and produced a movie with statements from her aunt under pressure. After analyzing videos of that day and speaking to eyewitnesses, CNN has concluded that she was chased and detained by security forces a few hours before she went missing. This is Nika on that Tuesday evening, burning her headscarf.
The first videos we found of Nika on the 20th are here at 7 p.m. As protests heat up, Nika can be seen right at the front, throwing rocks at a formation of uniformed officers. Easily recognized, she was brave, not even frightened, eyewitnesses said. At this stage in the evening, Nika is here by Lale Park. Then, as more officers arrive, witnesses say Nika starts to move away from them, first along Keshawaz Boulevard and then down Vassal Shirazi Street, where she's seen making a phone call just before 8 p.m. As it gets dark, the police crackdown intensifies, moving into Nika's new location. Evidence of injuries start emerging, and protesters are seen being detained, apparently by plainclothed officers. One person told CNN they saw security forces hitting women and putting them in police vans. In the midst of this heightened violence, CNN found a video of Nika. Still at the center of the protests, it's 8:37 p.m. and the last known video of her. "Don't move," she shouts as she crouches between cars to hide from authorities. The person filming from the car told CNN that shortly afterwards, Nika was taken by several large-bodied security forces and bundled into a van. By this point in the evening, police were everywhere. Videos we've geolocated to the scene show police to the south and also to the north of Nika. It means when she was crouching in traffic, she was completely surrounded. By the next morning, she would be dead, according to this death certificate, first obtained by BBC Persian and verified by CNN, which shows she died from multiple injuries caused by being hit with a hard object and is dated September 21st. But Nika's family would not learn of her death for another 10 days. Meanwhile, both Nika's mother and aunt have said in interviews that credible sources told them that for days during that window, Nika was in state custody.
On September 21st, the incompetent criminal president of Iran, Ebrahim Raisi, addressed the United Nations General Assembly. He has been accused of crimes against humanity by Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch for his role in the execution of 5,000 political prisoners in the 1980s. In his speech, he said, "We are the defenders of a fight against injustice, and we reject the double standards of some governments regarding human rights." As Raisi stood there and raised Qasem Soleimani's picture, Iranians were burning banners with pictures of those two in Iraq. On that Wednesday, there were rallies and protests in at least 57 cities in 23 provinces. Here is a map showing the spread of protests in the 5 days after Mahsa's death.
Yaşasın Azerbaycan kızları!
More universities are joining the protests too. Iranian diaspora follows the same chant, "Death to the dictator." Internet is shut down in most of the country, and two of the major social media platforms, Instagram and WhatsApp, are now restricted. Instagram accounts of soccer players who had posts about Mahsa Amini in recent days were suddenly deactivated. Activist Fatemeh Sepehri's house was raided and she was taken to an unknown location by security agents. Sepehri and her brother were among the signatories of a statement requesting resignation of the supreme leader during 2017-2018 protests. The fearless critique of Khamenei called for people to come to the streets after Mahsa's death. She is still in prison after 3 months and spent at least the first month in solitary confinement in IRGC Intelligence Center in Mashhad. As mentioned before, Farjad Darvishi was killed the previous day, and today is his burial, where chants of death to Khamenei can be heard. Many people are killed on September 21st. Here are names and stories of some of them. This is Ghazaleh Chalabi. She was recording the protest in Amol on her cell phone while chanting, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, we all stand together." She was shot in the head, and her phone keeps recording after she fell on the ground. Ghazaleh fell into a coma, and her family were repeatedly threatened that if they quote-unquote make a noise, her body will be withheld and buried in an unknown location. Security forces also threatened to take retaliatory action against her brother if her parents spoke out. They even rejected Ghazaleh's wish for her organs to be donated because it would make her seem like a martyr. In the same city, Irfan Rezai was first beaten by security forces. He then tore down a banner with Khamenei's picture, which led to him being shot in his shoulder and kidney and die. His family was under pressure to announce that he was a passerby, killed by rioters. Here are videos of 2 more people shot dead in Shahr-e-Rey. One is said to be a 13-year-old. Hanane Kia, a newlywed, was shot dead in Noshahr. Sasan Qurbani was buying a birthday cake for his father when he saw people getting shot. He rushed to help and he was shot himself. Him and his brother were then taken to the police station, beaten, and left there for several hours. By the time Sasan was moved to the hospital, he was already dead. Here are videos of 2 more people shot in Garmsar. One who died is said to be a 15-year-old. Another 15-year-old, Mohammad Zamani, is shot dead on Tehran-Saveh highway. 16-year-old Nima Shafaqdoust was shot in Urumiyeh. His mother explains that they drove him to a hospital, but saw that the hospital was surrounded by security agents. The family was afraid that if Nima is taken to the hospital, he will be kidnapped or arrested, so they drove him back and took him to a doctor's office several times during the next 12 days. However, the care he was receiving was not sufficient, and he had to be admitted to a hospital on the 12th day, where he passed away. Armed agents then went to the family's house at night and pressured them to say that Nima died because of an infection caused by a dog bite. His father passed away about 3 months later, a day after his mother sent out this video and publicly talked about her son's death. 16-year-old Amin Marafat was killed in Oshnaviyeh. Abulfazl Mehdipur was shot dead by a sharpshooter in Qaimshahr. This is Hadis Najafi. She was a TikToker, and in this last video she says that she hopes after a few years, when she would look back at these days, she would be glad that she took part in protests and changed everything. She was shot at least 6 times and died.
من خواهر حدیث نجفی هستم. این کیف حدیثه، کولشه.
میلاد زاره، مهرداد قربانی، محسن قیصری، Mohammad Hassan Turkaman, Amir Hossein Shams, and 16-year-old Siavash Mahmoudi were also killed in different cities. I know of 2 people killed in Rasht on that Wednesday. Mohammad Rasul Momenizad was with his brother when they were chased by security forces and plainclothesmen into an alley. He was shot with pellet gun from 3 feet away, and the 2 brothers were then beaten for a while before they were left alone in the alley. Muhammad Rasul's body was taken to the hospital and was only given to his family on condition that they don't speak out and have a quiet burial. Behnam Layaqpour was also on the streets of Rasht with his girlfriend Ghazal Qasemi. In his Instagram post on the previous day, he had announced that he was closing his business in a strike and to stand with people, hoping for better days. He was shot with pellet gun at close range. Ghazal and their other friend were then beaten to prevent them from helping Behnam, who was on the ground bleeding. By the time they are left alone and can find a ride to the hospital, Behnam is dead. The family stood guard by the morgue to prevent security forces from stealing the body and burying it in secret. His body is given to the family after 3 days and was finally laid to rest. There are unconfirmed reports of Ghazal being kidnapped and kept in a mental hospital 2 months after Behnam's death. 16-year-old Sarina Ismailzadeh died of severe beating on the head with batons during protests in Gohardasht, Karaj. The Islamic Republic claims she had killed herself. Sarina's phone was never returned to her family, and her Telegram posts were edited after her death to show a depressed image of her with suicidal tendencies. Her Instagram page was initially deleted after her death, but later 13 pages were created in her name, including one with her original ID without her old posts. Her YouTube channel, though, is a window into her life. A bright, joyful girl with an analytical mind and a hopeful heart. A young life lost among the scores killed on this day.
سلام گایز، حالتون خوبه؟ اوضاع احوال همچی رو به راهه؟
کشورم ایران که اینو همه ما مواجه شدیم، درد سراشو تک تک چشیدیم. شاید تو بیشتر، من کمتر، یا من بیشتر تو کمتر، اما هممون میدونیم که ایران چه وضعیتی داره. مردم یک کشور چه انتظاری میتونن داشته باشن از کشور خودشون؟ رفاه نه چیز دیگه. خب وضعیت اقتصادیمون داغونه، فرهنگیمون داغونه، اصالتمون داغونه دیگه. یه سری محدودیت هایی که مخصوصا واسه زنان خیلی بیشتر، مثل حجاب اجباری، خیلی ممنوعیت هایی که واسه پسرها نیست. یه این همه 20 سال پیش نیستش که ما جز دو جوانای همسن خودمون تو ایران هیچ کس دیگه ایران ندیده باشیم. نه، ما اون کسی که تو اتیوپی داره از گرسنگی میمیره رو هم دیدیم. اونی که داره تو عشق خودش هم میکنه رو دیدیم. و خب همونجایی هم که انسان کمالگراست همیشه به اون خوبه نگاه کنه و میخواد بشه اون خوبه. هیچ وقت نمیگه من چرا اتیوپیایی نیستم، نه میگه من چرا اون نوجوانی که داره تو میامی رو تو لس آنجلس زندگی میکنه نیستم.
While internet access is largely restricted, news and videos still get out, and Iranians and allies in other countries demand that their representative states hold the Islamic Republic responsible. Rallies are held in Frankfurt, London, Toronto, Brussels, and New York City. In Iran, protests continue all over the country and no one is safe from security forces, even inside private residences.
خودداری میکنن.
This is Motel Rou, where Shirin Alizadeh was vacationing with family and friends on September 22nd. She was driving back home in a car with her husband, son, and family friends when they drove by security forces shooting protesters on the street. Shirin started filming and was shot herself in the neck shortly after. She died in front of her 7-year-old son.
چی میگه؟ کشتن ما رو. دختر کشت. نازی فیلم میگه.
This is Mahsa Amini, who was shot in the head. Her father has one question. He wants to know why. For what crime was his daughter, a medal-winning athlete, killed when she was only protesting peacefully? Jawad Haidari was shot in Qazvin at about 8 p.m. on that Thursday. While he was only 5 minutes away from an emergency room, it was about 11 p.m. when he was taken to Shahid Rajai Hospital. The story is that he was taken to a police station and was kept there for several hours, which caused him to bleed to death. Since then, the family's house has been raided repeatedly, and their home security cameras were broken, so no trace of the regime's brutality is left. 2 of his brothers were arrested, and arrest warrants were issued for 15 other family members, including his sister. On the same day, security forces went to arrest an activist in his house in the middle of a live interview. Hossein Ronaqi realized they were waiting for him on the street to kidnap him without a warrant and take him away in an ambulance. He managed to escape from the garage door and posted a video later saying he would go to the prosecutor's office himself with his lawyer after the weekend. He said, "This is my country, this is my land, I'm not going to flee. If you arrest me there, I will start a dry hunger strike right away." Also on the same day, Anonymous knocks out the Supreme Leader's website a few hours after it said it hacked more than 300 street surveillance cameras. In Kermanshah, Minu Majidi, who was killed 2 days ago, is being buried. This is one of her daughters, Roya Pirai, kissing her mom's cold face goodbye. She is the one who cut her hair on her mother's grave later with a viral picture. She later left Iran and became a voice for the revolution. When Emmanuel Macron met with Iranian activists, it was Roya who asked him not to shake hands with a murderous regime who had killed her mother.
When I lost my mother, it was helpful for me sometimes to share who she was. What was your mom like?
My mother, she always believed in freedom. She cared about human beings. She was really caring and kind toward everyone. 3 days after Mahsa's death, she went to the streets and joined the protests. And I just recently found a witness, and I talked to him. He said that he was close to my mom when they shot my mom. He said that she was chanting slogans with the crowd, that the security forces came and they started shooting at people, and one of them shot my mother, and I think her death happened quickly because they shot her in a close range with a shotgun. and there was 167 pellets in her back. She gave her life in what she believed in, while she was seeking for freedom and justice for Mahsa and for all the young generation like me. I lost the dearest person in my life, and that's why I feel that they killed me as well.
Protests continue even in the most religious cities of Iran like Qom, where walls of Islamic seminaries are now marked with Mahsa Amini's name and the slogan, Woman, Life, Freedom.
اینجا قم است نیروگاه.
There are reports of forces pulling out of the city of Oshnaviyeh after protesters took control of some government buildings. Hadis Najafi, who was killed 2 days ago, is laid to rest with heavy presence of security forces in the cemetery. Kids have no protection from the brutality of security forces even behind windows of their homes. You see the agent taking aim at the person filming here with no regards for the child's life. While the Islamic Republic is trying to stop the news from spreading in any way they can, public figures with international platforms are standing with Iranians.
Mahsa Amini is my sister, and she should be alive today.
On this day, the Iranian national soccer team had a friendly game with Uruguay, where they celebrated their goal during the game. This came as a disappointment to Iranians who were expecting their national players show their support for the killed protesters. The players reacted to fans' critiques with turning their social media profile pictures to black to make up for their earlier appearance of not caring. They also took it one step further and all stood in black jackets covering the Islamic Republic's emblem at the beginning of their next game against Senegal. Iranians dispersed throughout the world are developing a new ritual, attending rallies for Iran on the weekends. While Saturdays are days off in many countries, it is the beginning of the work week in Iran. As a result, you see a lot of student protests starting each Saturday, and a student's arrest is an ongoing event. This week is also the beginning of a school year, when ironically there are more and more reports of the Islamic Republic using child soldiers in crackdowns. Hossein Ronaqi went to the prosecutor's office on Saturday morning as he had promised, but he was stopped by the door by plainclothesmen and was taken to prison where he was tortured and, as we would learn later, his leg was broken. Protests and rallies continue in Iran and around the globe. With domestic and international public figures focused on the revolution, it is impossible for the Islamic Republic to stop the spread of the news. This also happened on that Sunday.
Greetings, people of Iran. This is a message from Anonymous. To Iran people, our support for the Iranian protests will continue. As you all know, the government is trying everything to stop you. Don't give up. Do not leave the streets. Do not stop the revolution. The Iranian parliament supports the dictator when it should support the people, so we are releasing the personal information of all of them. Call them and ask why they support dictator. We are anonymous. It's too late for expect us. We are here.
In Sistan and Baluchistan province of Iran, allegations were made about a month ago that a police commander, Ibrahim Kuchakzai, had sexually assaulted a 15-year-old girl during interrogations. City of Rusk's cleric made a statement on Sunday that based on his investigation, he believed the horrific crime had indeed occurred. The statement sparked citizens' fury and had consequential effects on the protests in coming days. The cleric, Molavi Abdul Ghaffar Naqshbandi, was later called to the special clergy court, and since then his whereabouts and condition is unknown. In Qazvin, Javad Haydari, the protester who was left to bleed to death 3 days ago, is being buried, and his sister is cutting her hair on his grave. Canada announced that it will be placing sanctions on dozens of Iranian individuals and entities involved in crackdowns on human rights violations, including the so-called morality police. Kurdish women in Syria stood in solidarity with Iranians, while universities and cities of Iran are still scenes of protests. Razieh Janbaz, Iran's handball player, quit the national team in protest to the recent events and to stand with the people. Another athlete, Ali Karimi, the legendary retired soccer player who was nicknamed the Wizard, has been a powerful voice for the revolution since Mahsa's death. The regime tried threatening him and his family to stop his activities on social media with no success. As he was not in Iran at the time, they seized his house and properties. For some reason, they unsealed the house shortly after, but then stole all security cameras. To this day, Ali Karimi remains an effective public figure, criticizing the regime, and his name is called out loud in rallies and protests around the world.
هم زنم، چو هم صدا شویم و پا به پای هم رویم و دست به دست هم دهیم و از ستم رها شویم. جهان دیگری بسازیم از برابری، به همدلی و خواهری جهان شاد و بهتری. نه سنگسارها، نه پای چوب دارها، نه گریه های بارها، نه ننگ و آرها. جهان دیگری بسازیم از برابری، به همدلی و خواهری جهان شاد و بهتری. لا 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 نه پای چوب دارها، نه گریه های بارها، نه ننگ و آرها. جهان دیگری بسازیم از برابری، به همدلی و خواهری جهان شاد و بهتری.